Facebook land. Kathy Beal here. I decided to do an impromptu Facebook Live as the aftermath of the Scorpio Full Moon. I'm going to give people a little bit of time to find me. Okie dokie, I think maybe I have finally started. This is Kathy Beal. I'm doing an impromptu Facebook Live in the aftermath of the Scorpio Full Moon. I wanted to do this yesterday, but I got ambushed by the full moon. And by late in the day, I was not in a good place at all. It's taken me most of the day today to actually work through a bunch of stuff that happened. And this wasn't even aspecting anything whatsoever in my chart. So I give great props to the rest of you who have actually been dealing with this. And I'm just going to blither and see if anybody shows up. And if not, I will just post this. This is an experiment, actually, because I didn't give much notice about this. So, Scorpio full moon was in a direct link to Neptune, the planet of illusion, the planet of escapism. Excuse me a second. I'm going to check something out on my page and see if I can handle it this way. Hang on. Okay, somebody is here. There we go. It's not showing me actually on the Facebook Live, so that's really not helpful at all. Thank you, Facebook, for yet another change. At any rate, this moon, the moon itself very quickly made an exact aspect to Neptune. And hey, Pat, thank you. Later in the weekend, the sun is going to make its exact aspect. The aspect is a trine. It is an effortless flow, and it's in water. And I want you to think about think of a bridge going from a deep, deep, deep cavern all the way up high to some very elevated place in the heavens, for example, for want of a better word. And this particular full moon has the energies of spanning, as I said in my forecast, the depths and the heights, bringing light and Neptunian influences down into the deep, dark caverns, and also bringing whatever is going on in the deep, dark caverns up to light. Now, I don't often directly say things that are overtly political in my forecast because, for one thing, people get really irritated. But I will mention that there was an event yesterday that does tie to a Mercury-Neptune aspect in March of last year, I believe, when the Mueller report was released. And the Attorney General made comments, representations about what was in the report. And he took another action yesterday. That ties into what he believes the report says, which is not what the report says, and ties into his going to the Supreme Court to try to keep a court from ordering the unredacted report to be sent to the House Intelligence Committee. So there's just a connection. There's a connection here about who's telling the truth, what's really going on, what level of crime is involved, the Scorpio full moon, and is this actually bringing something to light, or is there some level of hooey going on here, for using technical terms. So that's one way this has been playing out. I encourage everyone to look at whatever is going on in their lives as happening on that brink, on that bridge. You can see, actually, imagine a beam of light from way up high in the sky, penetrating deep in your psyche, somehow, somewhere. And you can call on, you can actually stand in that light, in that energetic water beaming down, and let it wash over you and wash through your being. Now, I want to acknowledge that many people have hit a point now of uh, like they're hitting the wall with dealing with all kinds of situations, particularly the whole notion of staying at home, the pandemic, who's right, who's wrong, what's true, all kinds of different theories flying around, some of which may be true, some of which may not be true. But there's a psychological milestone that many of us are now experiencing or crossing, having to do with this. So it's a proper time for you to acknowledge hitting a wall or any kind of difficulties that you've been experiencing, and any emotional reaction that you have to the growing realization, understanding, grasping that life is not going to slide back to what it was, and that we're all in this bizarre time between times, world between worlds. I'm outside of New York City, and there is news constantly of one institution after another deciding it cannot continue, it can't go on. A beautiful old restaurant that's been around since the 1800s, um, a rehearsal studios where I have done a lot of things, been to a lot of auditions, been to a lot of rehearsals. Really amazing place on uh, Second Avenue that has a big punk rock history. Um, all kinds of places that are just saying, can't go on, we're shutting, we're shutting, we're shutting. So there's something in you, in your own life, that is parallel to this. That's part of why I'm mentioning it. And there's this weird sense of not knowing. So I would like to give us all an image to work with. And that is, again, the image of a cauldron, but this time, previously, we've been putting fire into the cauldron. This time, I just want to imagine the cauldron itself and filling it with liquid, filling the cauldron with a liquid representation of anything at all that you have had surfacing lately, whether it is exhaustion, emotional exhaustion, whether it is letting go of specific people, situations, goals, resentments, memories, anything at all. We can all just imagine pouring it into the cauldron. If it's just feeling uneasy, if it's, I may have said this, I can't remember, tears that you have not gotten around to crying because you've just been soldiering on, pour into this cauldron anything at all that you want. It can be sorrow for the world. It can be mourning people who have been ill. It can be your own anxiety about going out in public. Any anxiety at all you have had. If you have been one of the people who has lost someone, putting your grief into that. And I don't want to undercut that this is, in fact, this is something that has been happening. Um, Anything at all, resentment, bitterness, helplessness, powerlessness, memories that have been bubbling up, conversations that you have not really had the opportunity to have, anything at all, just dump it into the cauldron. And as you're doing this, imagine that there is a shaft of another shaft of what's, you can start with it being light, but as it comes down from way up high in the sky and hits the cauldron surface, you notice that it really has its own form. It's not merely light, but it is very liquid. It is pouring in, and you can ask for this to be from your higher self, from your angels, from heaven, from God, from some creative source, spirit, whatever words you want to use for it, but just allow that to pour in. And as you see it hitting, look into the cauldron. This cauldron is limitless, by the way, so it doesn't matter how much you pour in there. There's always going to be room for more. And as you see, whatever this substance is pouring down from the sky, falling into the cauldron, notice that it is actually transmuting, it is changing the surface, it's changing the quality of the light within the cauldron, it's changing the viscosity or thickness. There's a lightening that's coming into it, and a sense of gentleness. And you can keep this going for as long as you want. If you want to, you can put your hand out and actually touch and interact with this flow. If you want to step into it, you may do that and allow it to just pour down onto you and flow through you and over you like some kind of beautiful, magical shower that you're in the middle of. And you can come back to this, you can add to it anytime you want, but for right now, decide what you want to do with this. Would you like to drink some of it? It's safe if you want to. You could, if you decide that, you'll notice that there is a beautiful cup that you can just dip into it. It's like a pitcher, little long handle. If you want to try that, I personally am not going to taste anything in the cauldron. I'm really big on getting it out of me, but you certainly may if you want, and take it as some kind of tonic. If you want, you can actually pour out what is in the cauldron, pour it out onto the ground. And if you do that, notice what the ground does as it hits. There's no right or wrong, but just notice what happens to the ground when the fluid that's in the cauldron hits it. And if you want, you can continue pouring things, substances, issues, ideas into the cauldron. If you would like to pour something in there that is on behalf of something greater than you, more than you, for someone else, for the greater good, for your community, for your neighborhood, for society, you can pour that in as well. You can come back to this at any point. So there's really no big end to this particular visualization. You can come back to it, keep it going. If there's anything anybody wants to ask about, comment on, what they've been going through, what has been happening the past couple of days, I'll keep this going for a little while and look at the comments and see if there's anything else, even if you want to just say where you're from. I am from the very dreary, gloomy shores of Cozy Lake, New Jersey at this moment. So I'll give you a second for anyone who wants to say anything, comment, ask a question about the full moon or anything that they feel going on. You can look at this time as, and next week too, and I'll be talking about this on my Patreon. You can look at this as a way to dump out, to vent things that have been brewing inside of you or behind the scenes, at least since the beginning of the year, perhaps from most of last year as well. So this can be a massive dumping out point for a lot of energy and emotions that have been down there that you thought you got out, that are surprising you, like, oops, that's still there, which was part of my reaction that made me delay doing this because I had my own discovery in that arena. Anybody else? Okay, this was an experiment doing something impromptu. I will generally give you much more notice than this. I appreciate people popping by. Oh, a few more things. Um, I do have a working with Pluto guided visualization at my site that could be very, very useful right now. Um, there's a comment I will respond to in a second. At any rate, it's called Working with Pluto, and it has you actually go into your private sanctuary, meet up with Pluto. You work in the garden with Pluto and weed a bunch of stuff, and then you actually, ooh, spooky, spooky, go into a cave with Pluto and see what the treasure is down there. So that's in my shop, Working with Pluto. Uh, okay. Somebody had an unexpected and uncharacteristic uh, unloading from a person who is a Scorpio. Yeah, big surprise. Um, and someone else, oh my goodness, someone was in a major meltdown and had a crystallization of exactly what had led to this very, very early on. That is profound and major, and I applaud you for catching that and for working on it. Yeah, there's big stuff. There's big stuff going on. And I will say with one of the things in that really got to me, I just sat and going, I've worked through this. I've been working through this for years. I thought I was past this. Why am I still having a reaction to this? So I used emotional freedom technique or tapping, and just went down all the tapping points and acknowledged all the insane and uncomfortable thinking that was running through me and just acknowledged it was there and tried to get rid of it. Okay, I'm waiting and I'm seeing it seems to be it for the comments. So thank you guys for speaking up and for popping in. And I'm going to save this. And yeah, next week's going to start feeling a little different. Oh, oh my goodness. A Scorpio going radio silent. Uh-huh. And old baggage coming back. Yeah. Isn't that I hate this thing about the layers of the onion. You know, you peel, and then bam, there's still something there. Yeah, it's kind of discouraging. But, you're at a deeper, deeper, deeper level of it. So look at it as a cavern that just keeps opening deeper and deeper and allowing more and more stuff to come out. And wouldn't you rather know what's floating around down there that's steering than have it steering without you knowing what in the world is behind the steering wheel? That's one way of looking at it. All the better if it weren't there, but it's there. So pour it into the cauldron. Just keep pouring, keep pouring. Okay, guys, do something really nice for yourselves this weekend. I have actually been allowing myself to eat some chocolate, which is not something that's been on my diet lately. So what? Okay. Find some reason to enjoy life and smile and laugh. Okay. Everyone be safe.